What's up guys, Emerald Gamer here, and welcome to part 2 of our Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite hype train. The game's been blowing up for like 2 weeks now. That last video that we did last week was quite literally the best video we've had in a while. Last week we did talk about kind of what was shown off. We waited until all the starter news that came out, and me and Donovan just kind of talked about what we expected out of it, and then maybe our hopes and maybe some fears about it. But this week is our top 10 characters that we want to see in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And going through some very thorough research all week, we kind of discovered that no character has ever been safe from not being selected to be in a Marvel vs. Capcom game. So we're going to make this list with the idea that there's no X-Men rumor, only Marvel Film Universe rumor. We're going with literally anything as long as it's Capcom or Marvel. And we're going to explain why, of course. So without further ado, we're going to start it right now. Top 10 characters, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Coming up at number 10, which is originally a joke entry, but then became more serious the more we thought about it, was Burton from the Resident Evil series. Now, he could actually be a very viable pick for this roster, mainly because Barry is known for just having a .44 Magnum, and that's it, a large Magnum pistol. However, Chris and Jill, who have been in the previous ones, have an arsenal of things they've used throughout the games. But Barry, he just kind of walks around. You don't really know too much about how he plays or fights or whatever. So we figured that if he had more of a melee-centric style, mixed in with like gunfighting. Is gunfighting a word? Then he would actually be a very good pick for this roster. And also, you know, he's kind of like a meme for the franchise.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Taking up our number 9 slot, we figured we'd pair someone with Mega Man X, who's been a long-awaited character for this whole ordeal, and Capcom just kind of ignored it. So, we figured that, yes, Mega Man X and Zero would be a good character combo, but that's fucking lazy and boring. So let's pick someone from the Little Mega Man series. You know, like the OG one. Burton. Why not? I mean, he has to have been in a different game at some point. Right? Coming up on the number 8 slot, I picked personally, but nobody else did. But they did agree that it should be on the list somewhere. And that's Wolverine. Now, if the rumors are true about no X-Men, they will make an exception. I mean, come on! It's Wolverine! He's literally in every single one! He's always fighting Ryu! There's no excuse not to put him in! I mean, his moves are perfect. The music, the theme is perfect. The fucking, so perfect. When I was first taking entries for this list, Donovan Diamond Gamer said that his list was going to be only Capcom characters. And I said, sure, why not, bud? It'll be interesting. A couple nights later, I get a list with a bunch of names on it that I can't pronounce on the first try. So I had to do some Google searching. And in that Google search, I found some goldmine, which is number 7 spot, Hayato Kanzaki from Star Gladiator. Hayato's character design is so cool that it's almost impossible not to put him in. And he even fights with an energy sword like Zero. So he's basically just Zero without the robot part. And he's even a bounty hunter. He's perfect. Hayato Kanzaki. Put him in. Get rid of the boots. They're too red. Coming to our number 6 slot, we have Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Now the reason why we put them together on the list is because many of us have put either or on one list somewhere placed in a random slot, but we might as well put them together for this because they're a duo. And most characters in a lot of Marvel vs. Capcoms have like a super or a special that just have the character come in out of nowhere and do whatever they do for one attack. And that's just kind of not really special in all that way, since they're not really partnered. But Iron Fist and Luke Cage are quite literally a duo, so we figured that they could like share a health bar, and then you could have a command to switch in and out between them. where one sticks in the background and does nothing and just kind of walks with you, and then the other one kind of just fights for you, and that way you could still have another partner with you in the battle and they don't take up 2 slots. So Luke Cage would be more of a raw power heavy character, kind of like, I guess, Hulk in a way. That's a really bad example because they're not at all similar. And then Iron Fist could be the variety that kind of with the chi chains like he was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and he could cover all the bases that Luke Cage doesn't quite cover himself because he sacrifices all that for power. But you know, just a thought. At our number 5 slot we have Thanos, which is essentially just Frieza from Dragon Ball Z, but more beefy and more... In all seriousness though, the inclusion of the Infinity Stone mechanic that we assume is very similar to the game Marvel Superheroes, Thanos makes a very perfect addition to the roster, considering he's all about the Infinity Gauntlet. He makes it, and he collects all the Infinity Stones and becomes extremely powerful. However, he's only number 5 on the list, mainly because he might be reserved for an arcade boss, much like how Galactus was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So we might have to actually see him as a non-playable character, but nonetheless, we do want to see him playable or non-playable. And our number 4 slot, which was originally a number 1 slot for me, but had to be taken down a couple pegs, is Jean. What the fuck is that? Well, not a lot of people know about the game God Hand, and even less about its main character, Jean, but Jean is a very good addition to a roster like a Marvel vs. Capcom game. And that's mainly because Jean not only is a good answer to Marvel's Iron Fist in the sense of he's all about martial arts, but also has a very silly personality, which fits the Marvel vs. Capcom's series' silly undertone. For there are a lot of characters in these games that just don't belong at all, and they make them fit because they're supposed to be more silly characters, as Marvel vs. Capcom isn't a very serious game at all. He can have a really big variety of moves that he can use, and also on top of that, he has a great theme that they can go with. Play the theme! Yeah! Power of the God Hand! Capcom, please. Pick Jean. Remember when I said Proto Man has to be in a different game? Well, he is, as a costume in Dead Rising 2. Which brings us to our next entry, number 3, Frank West and Chuck Green. Now we gotta keep things even. If Marvel's gonna have a duo, Capcom has to have one as well. It'd be unique and a fun thing to do for the game. But rather, on the Capcom side, instead of having to decide between ups and downs on the different attributes of the characters themselves, how about keeping both Chuck and Frank balanced, but rather when you switch between them, their input commands and their different specials do different things, before they can have different inventories within each other. And also maybe have their supers combine and do super attacks that are involving teamwork. Also, in addition, these two characters make perfect sense to be added, especially Frank West if anything, because they just recently remade and released the first 2.5 games, excluding the third one, and even just came out with Dead Rising 4, which is all about Frank. So it'd be almost impossible not to include either one of them, or just both. Please be both. Out of all the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 characters, I feel like Ghost Rider had the greatest potential. It's just that the way that they made him kind of made him a little, spammy, if you know what I mean. And overall, that just kind of made him not fun to play against or play, really. There was no fun in it. It was just spam a button over and over. But I feel like if they fixed him up, that potential could actually be real. It could be there. So, a revamped Ghost Rider would actually be amazing. I mean, everyone likes Ghost Rider, except for the Nick Cage ones. Those are pretty awful. But the concept is so cool. And I feel like they could actually make it work a lot better than what they did with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and the spammy nonsense that they had. Just a thought, but a lot of us were thinking about that, and that's one of the very few things that we actually complained about Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Just that. Number 2, Ghost Rider. Also, by the way, just so this actually can happen, can we start a change.org for for fucking thick, spammy Ghost Rider. When trying to decide on the number 1 for this list, it became immediately apparent on what it was. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Chibi from Okami Den. Now, the reason why I say Chibi Amaterasu, the protagonist from the first game, Okami, was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and they kinda ruined her, because in Okami, the main form of attacking is Celestial Brush skills, which is a little brush thing that she has on her tail. However, in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they like to focus on the changing of the weapon on her back, which is more or less of a secondary fighting style compared to the actual game, and they pushed the Celestial Brush abilities down to the secondary tier of fighting. So, the reasoning why they did that, I don't really know. It kind of made her a little boring, to be honest, and they could have done a lot more with that character. It's just they took everything out and replaced it for just special secondary stuff, and all of her unique fighting physical things were just resorted to basic attacks, with the exception of her super. However, but with Chibi, they could do that exact same system and be perfectly okay with it, because Chibi is a lot smaller and has a companion at all times atop her. Him. I don't know if it's a her or him. Can someone do this for me? Chibi could do like what it does in the game, where you have all of your brush abilities at all times, but the partner is what really determined how you fight. So changing partners would be like changing the weapons for Amaterasu just a little more different, and it would add a little bit more variety than just your simple ranged, medium, short range, and then more damage type of thing to it. And you can still have your Celestial Brush abilities, and then therefore for the character it would make more sense. Now, if they wanted to do Amaterasu, that would be okay, but they would have to change it up to make more sense for it to be acceptable for us. Plus, I mean, look at how cute he is! Look at him! Alright guys, that concludes our top 10 characters that we want to see for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And, you know, if something didn't make the list that you wanted to see, feel free to send us in the comments what you were looking for. And then follow us on Twitter, and we can have a little chat about that, because, you know, I'll talk about this shit all day. I gotta say, definitely doing these top 10s is a struggle. The first one ever took quite a while, a lot longer than I expected, planning that ahead a little bit more, and I plan to do a lot more of these. If you like this, feel free to give us a like. If you want to see more of us, we have an entire archive of stuff that you can watch. And if you want to know when we get our videos, you can either follow us on Twitter it's just at Mineral Gamers, and then I believe our Twitch is Mineral Gamers as well. We stream every Wednesday, guaranteed, usually, unless something comes awry, but that's what Twitter's for. Also, if you want to know whenever you get a video upload from us, feel free to hit that little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. And if you haven't subscribed, do so there. I don't know if I already said that or not. Anyway, come the 20th of December, if you're watching this beforehand, there's going to be a huge announcement for the channel. It's an update video sort of type of thing. And it's going to explain what's going to be happening here in a short little while. So I'm glad to announce that little bit of information. But other than that, I think it's time for me to go. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I will see you guys next time.